Hey up everyone, and welcome to another episode of Right Good Poetry with me, Sophie Sparham. As you can see, I have a different background today because my office is currently in lots of boxes and it's very messy. So here we are. It's quite nice, isn't it? I feel quite tranquil right here. Anyway, going back to the poetry, last week we covered Vanessa Cathule's Whore. This week we're going to take a look at the American poet Mary Oliver. So a few facts about Mary Oliver. Well, she lived from 1935 to 2019 and she won the National Book Award and the Pulitzer Prize. Her work is mainly inspired by nature and kind of stems from her enjoyment of taking like long solitary walks in the countryside, which I'm sure none of us can blame her for because they are right nice. So a few more facts about it. Well, she was born in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio called Maple Hill Heights. She would retreat from a difficult home life to the nearby woods where she would build huts out of sticks and grass and write poems. And I guess that was kind of like the start of her poetry career before she went into education. Her lifelong partner was Molly Malone Cook. The couple moved to Provincetown, Massachusetts, and the surrounding Cape Cod landscape had a marked influence on Oliver's work. So it inspired lots of the poems that we know and love today. It's also important to note that Oliver's work follows the romantic poems and kind of follows on from what they're saying when talking about nature, and see it as this wonderful, all-powerful, encompassing thing, basically. So the poem that I'm going to read today is probably one of Oliver's most famous poems, and it's called Wild Geese. Here we go. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscape, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers you itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So there you go, that was Mary Oliver's Wild Geese. So in this poem, Oliver's talking about the human pursuit for trying to have a purpose and kind of feeling lost if we don't have that purpose or are not fulfilling the purpose that we think we're meant to have. The poem opens with a really unusual first line. You do not have to be good. And I think about this line quite a lot. I think it's a really interesting line to open up a poem with. And I think what she's trying to say is that as humans, we try and do all these things that we feel that we need to do in order to be a good person. So we feel like, oh, I need to do that and I need to do this. And we set ourselves all these tasks and expectations. But actually, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. You know, you're setting these goals and you're setting these expectations on yourself a lot of the time, or society is putting them on you. Also with this line, I think there's different ideas of what being good is. So you've got society's idea of what being a good person is and what it means to be good. But then you've also, in contrast to that, you've got your own idea of what being a good person is. And I feel like with this line, she's almost telling us to kind of unlearn what we've learned, to kind of shake off these expectations that we put on ourselves and, you know, just do what we think needs to be done and not what is expected of us. She goes on to say you don't have to repent. So this is like using religious imagery, you know, like people feel like they must be punished for their sins if you've done something. And she's saying you don't need to do that. You don't need to beat yourself up for not being perfect. It's okay not to be perfect. And then one of my favourite lines from the poem that she says is, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. That's all you've got to do. Love what you love. Don't worry about all this kind of societal expectations. It's just do your thing, you know, do what makes you happy. And then the nature imagery comes in. So it's meanwhile the world goes on. Meanwhile the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscape. You know, the world continues to live. Whatever you're doing, all this confusion and stress that you're having, the world does not question if the sun should rise or fall or not. It just does. It just carries on going, you know. And she talks and she uses all this nature imagery, and meanwhile the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again, you know. Nature has its routines that it's doing. It's not questioning what it's doing, it's just getting on with stuff. And she's kind of encouraging us to find comfort in nature and to see how, you know, its elements and its creatures they're unperturbed and they're absolutely sure of where their place is in the world, you know. They're not questioning it, they're just getting on with the world. And she's asking us to find comfort in nature and be reassured by nature. And, you know, it says, whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. And what she's trying to say is you're not alone, you're actually part of something much, much bigger. And to find comfort in nature and feel like you are part of it and kind of use it to, you know, make you feel reassured about what you're doing. So thank you for taking a listen to this video and enjoying my kind of quick whirlwind tour of Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. If you do have any comments about the poem, anything that you didn't agree with or anything you'd like to add, please message me and let me know. Always interested to hear different people's opinions on poetry. Next week, we're going to be looking at the poet Jonathan Kinsman and taking a look at his poem from his latest pamphlet. If you enjoyed this, please give us a subscribe or a thumbs up, and yeah, go along to my channel where you can watch all the old poetry videos. Have a good one and see you later.